What if I told you that this is actually a great way to draw, even though it's upside down? Yes, what you're seeing isn't a mistake. Today, I'm going to draw a full portrait completely upside down. And by the end of this video, you'll see exactly why this technique can completely transform the way you draw. If you're thinking upside down, that just sounds confusing. Don't worry, I'm going to walk you step by step of how to approach it, why it works, and why it's one of the most powerful tools for improving your drawing skills. And if you want to follow along, there's a link in the description to the reference image I'm using, which I definitely encourage you to do. You can draw it alongside me, entirely upside down without flipping it once. Don't be tempted to flip it. So why draw upside down? Our brains are wired to recognize familiar patterns, faces, objects, symbols, which can actually make drawing harder, believe it or not. We tend to fill in what we expect to see instead of observing the actual shapes and angles. Flipping an image upside down forces your brain to focus on lines, angles, and proportions. You start seeing edges, relationships between shapes in a way you normally wouldn't. It's a way to train your observational skills and improve accuracy without even realizing it. Let's start by lightly sketching the main outlines. Take a moment to look at the reference image upside down and identify the basic shapes. The oval of the face, the angle of the jaw, the placement of the eyes. Don't worry about getting everything perfect. We're focusing on observation, not perfection. One common mistake beginners make is trying to draw features as symbols, thinking, this is an eye, this is a nose, instead of looking at the actual shapes. Remember, an eye is just a collection of shapes, curves, lines, and angles. Look at it as a set of geometric forms. Another classic beginner mistake is rushing. Don't move too fast. Keep your hand relaxed, take your time, and constantly compare lines and shapes to what you see in the reference photo. Notice the angles, the curves, and the distance between the features. The more you observe, the more accurate your drawing will become. It's okay to use light lines here. You'll refine them later. Pay attention to subtle curves, define the jaw or the forehead. Upside down, you can focus purely on shape and spacing. Notice how the eyelids curve, how the corners align, and how the eyes sit in relation to the nose. A tip here is to constantly measure visually. Compare the distance between the eyes to the width of the nose, or the height of the forehead to the chin. As we continue through this drawing, I'm drawing things like the nose, the mouth, and also the eyes, and checking the relationships carefully. Beginners often make the mistake of placing features too high or too low. A simple way to avoid this is to measure with your pencil. Hold it up, align it with a feature in the reference, and transfer that angle and length to your paper. This keeps everything proportional. This is a great point to pause and say, if you're drawing this so far and you want more drawing tips and exercise like this, make sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the Portrait Guru. I post new drawing tutorials regularly. You won't miss upcoming videos where I dive into even deeper into observation, technique, and improving your drawing skill. As I continue throughout this drawing, I'm drawing things like the jaw, the ears, and also the hair as well. When drawing the ears, beginners often misjudge the angle, making them too flat or too rotated. Instead, draw the ear as a combination of curves and shadows. Don't think of it as a literal ear, just the shapes it contains. Upside down, you'll notice shapes in the hair you might otherwise miss. Here's some extra tips as we go. Keep checking proportions using horizontal and vertical alignment. Step back occasionally to see the overall balance, even if it's upside down. If you make a mistake, that's absolutely fine. Erase and adjust. The upside down technique makes mistakes easier to spot because you're not distracted by the symbolic interpretation of features. One classic mistake that I've personally done in the past is just continuing on even though I know a mistake is within my drawing. It's much more important to erase mistakes earlier on in the process. So if you see a mistake, it's fine. Mistakes are part of learning. Don't get hung up on perfection. The goal is learning to observe accurately. So take a moment just to look over your drawing. Compare the features again. Are the eyes in the correct position? Does the nose line up with the rest of the face? Is jaw proportionate? Remember, drawing upside down helps you see those relationships without your brain automatically correcting things in a biased way. If you want to see the next stage where I can add shading and bring this portrait to light, drop me a comment below. Let me know if you'd like a follow-up video shading this exact same portrait so you can practice the full process from outline to finished piece. I read every comment and love hearing what you want to see next. So this drawing took me around 15 minutes to create, so it's sped up within this video, so just keep that in mind. I try and use this method when drawing portraits. When drawing a portrait, I would flip it upside down and also the reference photo. This helps me spot mistakes in the process, and then I can flip it the right way up. It's definitely a technique that you should utilize within your portrait drawings. I use things like grids, drawing medium to line up horizontal and vertical alignment, and definitely use the upside down method. I do it time and time again within my time-lapse drawings, so I really recommend you trying this method out. But hopefully you can follow along within this drawing. You can see the marks that I'm making on the page, and you can pretty much study and also copy the marks that I'm making. So hopefully you're satisfied with your drawing that you have created. I think you'll be really surprised by the outcome after you flip it upside down. And I actually really recommend you trying this out 3 or 4 times after this video, picking a portrait that you like, picking a still life photograph, or even a landscape. You'll be really amazed just by how accurate your drawings will become. This is a famous technique that was first introduced by Betty Edwards and her book, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. I really do recommend that book as well. I'm just going to take a moment here to talk about this drawing tool that I have here. If I unscrew the top of this drawing tool, you can see that the pencil is pretty damn small. This isn't sponsored in any way. This is my personal recommendation, but I absolutely love these pencil extenders. You can just clip it in, tighten it up, and away you go. If you have lots of pencils out there which are ridiculously small and you want to make use of all of the lead within them, this is a great tool to have. Now we've got the basic outlines in place, it's time to start pressing a little harder on the pencil and bringing more contrast into the drawing. Start gently darkening the lines that define the main features. But don't be afraid to erase areas that don't feel quite right. I'm already erasing part of the jaw where it's slightly off. It might feel frustrating and feel like you're going backwards, but it's completely normal. Adjusting as you go is how you make a sketch more accurate. One of my favorite tricks at this stage is to zoom in on the reference image. By concentrating on just a small area at a time, you can spot subtle mistakes you might have missed when looking at the whole face. For example, the corner of the eye might be slightly higher than how I initially drew it, or the curve of the cheek might need a little tiny tweak, or the nose, for example. Focusing in this way makes the whole process feel more manageable and less overwhelming. Want to go even deeper? Join the Portrait Guru membership for exclusive shorts, behind the scenes content, and exclusive chat rooms to help improve your art with fellow gurus. It's a way to support the channel and your own artistic journey. Check out the link in the description about different membership options. At the start of the drawing, I'm building the foundations, sketching in the outlines roughly of the placements, and when I develop the drawing more and more, I will then zoom into each facial feature and then detail it from there. Instead of trying to fix everything at once, you tackle one small problem at a time. When refining, think about the pressure of your pencil. Pressing harder creates darker lines, which helps certain features pop and gives the drawing more depth. But balance is key. You don't want to overdo it and lose the subtle shapes underneath. You can always go back with an eraser to lighten areas that feel too heavy. If you start drawing too heavy lines, it can almost look comic book-like. So really vary that line pressure. Make some darker and some lighter. As you concentrate on each area, look for little connections between features. Notice how the jawline curves into the cheek, how the shadows sit alongside the nose, and how the upper lip relates to the lower lip. By zooming in and working in sections, it's easy to get these relationships correct, and you'll catch errors you might have missed before. Another tip at this stage is to also step back. Even though you're focused on the tiny details and zooming in, glancing at a whole drawing every few minutes helps you check the overall balance. Sometimes what looks perfect close up can feel slightly off when viewed as a whole. This back and forth between detail and the bigger picture is where the real drawing comes together. I also like to experiment a little bit with line weight here, pressing harder in certain areas to suggest depth or shadow and keeping other lines lighter. It's subtle, but these variations make the portrait feel more three-dimensional alive, even before adding any shading. Don't worry about mistakes. I'm just adjusting the jawline and a few contours as I go. That's part of the process. Spotting mistakes is not failure. It's learning and refining. Treat each correction as a step towards a stronger, more accurate portrait. By focusing on one small section at a time, making small adjustments, and varying the line weight, you start to see the portrait really come alive. It's almost like watching a rough sketch transform into something a lot more deliberate and confident. Every little tweak you make now pays off in dividends in the final result. So take your time, zoom in on the reference, refine each feature carefully, adjust lines that feel off, and use contrast and pressure to start bringing the portrait to light. So by the end of this section, your upside down drawing will feel much more structured, precise, and ready for the final reveal. You can see that I'm drawing with pencil within this video, but if you don't have any to hand, a pen will be absolutely fine. A pencil is great for erasing those mistakes, but a pen allows you to just commit to the stroke. So I actually recommend you trying out both a pencil and pen for this technique. Finally, let's take a look at this finished upside down outline. Even though we draw it this way, it looks surprisingly coherent and balanced. The lines we sketched while concentrating on shapes rather than symbols really paid off. This shows that upside down drawing isn't just a fun exercise. It's a technique that strengthens your observation, improves accuracy, and gives you more confidence in your drawing skills. If you liked this video, check out this video coming up.